So good afternoon and welcome to the African Tea Time session today. I'm happy to welcome everybody that is joining us. Perhaps there's some joining us for the first time, but I want all of you to feel welcome to the African Tea Time. My name is Damaris Choti. I coordinate student and alumni programs for the African Studies Center here at Michigan State University. And I'm happy to see Emmanuel. Emmanuel is also one of the coordinators. He's our graduate student here, and he's one of the African Tea Time coordinators, but he's not doing it today, just today. So I'm very excited, and we're really very fortunate most of the time to have speakers that are always available. They come visiting to Michigan State University, like today's presenters. Some of them are members of the African, not the African, but the MSU community. Some of them are joining us from international places sometimes, but we're very privileged to have two presenters today that are coming from South Africa, but they're currently here around the East Lansing area at Michigan State University, specifically for a 6 weeks program. 4 weeks at MSU that is about to come to an end. And when they're introducing themselves, they'll speak more about the program that brings them to Michigan State University. They're from South Africa, Nigeria. They'll talk more about themselves. I don't want to do much of the introductions. Actually, at tea time, we let the speakers do the introductions for themselves. But the talk today is going to highlight research and innovation in African universities. The previous tea time, we focused on the same theme, but we focused on Ghana and Ethiopia. And today we're going to look at the country of South Africa. And the specific discussion is going to be based on research and innovation management in South African universities, policies, funding landscape, and performance. And our two speakers are Palesa Mothapo. Maybe not pronouncing the name well, please do with all the accents. Palesa is the head of Postdoctoral Research Support Division for Research Development at University of Stellenbosch. And our second presenter is Michael Daramola. And Michael is a professor and head of Department of Chemical Engineering at the University of Pretoria. So I would want them to introduce themselves more and take us through the discussion today. And again, I thank you so much. Please feel welcome and lead us through the discussion. Palesa.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I think we'll do the introductions first before I go into the presentation. We are doing a joint presentation. We're actually from two different institutions, but we will share a little bit more about that. So we'll do our introductions first. So my name is Palesa Mothapo. I'm South African from Stellenbosch University. And I've been with the university for a very long time. I'm a scientist by training. I trained in invasion biology. I specialize in insects, very broad. And I finished my PhD with Stellenbosch and did some postdocs outside and also in Stellenbosch as well. And now I am Deputy Director at the Postdoctoral Research Support Office, which is within the Division for Research Development. And we look after everything related to postdocs. So we basically function like an HR office. We administer all the payments, the registration, everything related to support of postdocs, funding and capacity development. I also work on policy and strategy, on growing the postdocs and supporting the postdocs in general. And yes, we got on this IREX University Administration Fellowship, and there are 28 of us, I think. Now we've been distributed across various American institutes where we are there to share some best practices, learn about higher education systems within American universities, and also look at shared practices, tools, basically a knowledge exchange so that we can go back home and also implement in our institutions the things that work and that would work in our various contexts, and also to strengthen partnerships with our countries and to develop systems where we work together and develop innovation together. So I'm going to hand over to Michael to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Palesa, and good afternoon to everybody, either watching us on the online somewhere, chilling and also listening to us. My name is Michael Daramola. I'm originally from Nigeria, but been in South Africa for the past 10 years. And currently now I'm the head of the Department of Chemical Engineering at the University of Pretoria. I'm a professor of chemical engineering, and my passion has been in the area of sustainable engineering practices. We do a lot of research in the development of nanomaterials, nanoparticles from waste, and also now use these nanoparticles now to do a lot of things in energy and environment. Basically now my research has a kind of contribution towards realization of Sustainable Development Goal 6, 7, and I do this by looking into goal number 17, which is partnership. And that's what brought me to this program, which is IRES or UASP Fellowship in Research Management and Leadership, because my interest is in grooming the next generation of researchers in Africa. And do that now by working together with people, by collaborating, also now share ideas, also now the strength in terms of the expertise amongst that. And another thing is to ensure that we understand how the best practices are across the globe in terms of our research capacity development. And I think that's me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I'm just going to quickly share my. Okay, you can just let me know if you can see the slides.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so we did a joint presentation, so I'm going to give an overview of just the South African higher education landscape, our funders, and basically what drives the research community and the support systems that are there in our various institutions, but at national level, basically what is there and supportive systems that are there. And just to make you jealous, we are going back to autumn or fall, and these are the colors we're going to expect. There's our nice campus, is an iconic street called Victoria Street. Yeah, so some remnants of colonization there, but it's a wonderful place to be in our two universities, and I'm happy to share with you a little bit about what we do. So our universities are supported at a government level through the Department of Higher Education and Training, as well as the Department of Science and Innovation. They didn't change their logo there, but it's actually now the Department of Science and Innovation. And also we have the governing policy institutes, which are the University of South Africa and the Council on Higher Education. And they develop a lot of policies around higher education in South African universities. And then we have the National Research Foundation, which is our main science granting council, where all of our research is funded and student support, basically anything to do with research. And they basically run the budget, the training budgets from the Department of Science and Innovation and the Department of Higher Education and Training. We have 26 public universities. If you don't know South Africa, there's our map. We are split into 9 provinces. And South Africa is a very diverse country. We have 11 official language, 12 including the The sign language is our 12th language. And our universities are distributed in every part of the country. We have new universities that were recently built, 3 of them, and they are proposed to be 3 more that are going to be proposed, if built up, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm down there in the Western Cape in Stellenbosch, here at the bottom, and Michael is in Gauteng, there in Pretoria. And both Pretoria is basically the capital of the country in terms of the economic hub of the country, and the Western Cape is where all our major agriculture happens. So South Africa has a lot of challenges in terms of higher education support, largely because of the history of the country, and trying to transform the higher education landscape to be inclusive and to be reflective of the country that we live in. And there has been a lot of effort towards investing in research and development across our universities, but this target is seeming more and more difficult to attain. And the future target is that we will use up about 1% of our GDP for support of research and research activities. And in terms of the training support in the universities, in terms of full-time equivalent researchers, there's been a decline, and there are several challenges which I will deal with a bit later on in this talk. But we have increased the number of postgraduate students that go through the universities at all of our 26 universities. And also there's been a direct increase in postdoctoral research fellows in the past 15 years. And I think these ones are mostly distributed in the research intensive universities, of which Michael and I come from. There's been a national target, excuse me. There's been a national target to increase the number of doctoral graduates to about 6,000 per year. We are currently around 3,000 per year. And pushing towards this target has been a big challenge, but there are policies that are in place to support these initiatives. And one of the bigger challenges that we don't have a lot of academic staff or faculty that have PhDs across our 26 universities. So about 45%, this is the last 2021 assessment, 45% of our academic staff have a PhD, which means that with that number, we can only work in terms of contributing to doctoral graduates with only 45% capacity. And this is becoming a challenge for us to reach this target of 6,000 per year. But also there are further challenges around, students who graduate and then they don't get employed, and which are, exacerbates other challenges as well. We have a very well functioning university system, but we have a lot of other political issues that pose a challenge for us in reaching our goals. A few years ago, there was a big unrest around university fees. Because of affordability, a lot of students are struggling to get into universities, to pay for university. So most students don't get access to that higher education because they can't afford it. And those who do get in end up mounting up large amounts of debt. And so there was this fees must fall movement, and the government actually had to really reallocate resources towards supporting students and reducing debts, and making sure students who come from families who are not able to afford, or they earn within a certain income bracket, to be able to come to university and study for free. And this has been good, and it's got its pros and cons, as you can imagine. But our country actually is trying to work towards transformation and redress, giving more access to Black students, especially from disadvantaged communities, to be able to access higher education and the opportunities that come up after you actually get a degree. There was some previous research that showed that in South Africa, although we do have a high unemployment rate, most of the people who are employed are graduates, and people who did not drop out of school. We do have a high dropout rate among Black graduates, simply because of the fees and being unable to afford to continue to study. And so there's still like remnants of our legacies of apartheid in our country that are affecting our post-school education system and even the academic staff profile. Later on, I'll be sharing a little bit about the policies that are used right now in order to develop and increase access of Black researchers and to transform the staff profile or the faculty profile in our respective universities. There's a challenge around funding as well. So we have issues of skilled researchers leaving, so we are not able to retain them. And when we do get really good PhD students, we have to try to get them into postdoctoral programs in order to keep them into the academic systems, but that's also proving a challenge. If you watch the news, which I will encourage you to, you will see that there's quite a lot of issues around our energy. We have an energy crisis in our country, and you can imagine the impact that has on research, on our ability to teach, and universities have had to shift their resources to make sure they buffer the impact of when we have these scheduled blackouts, so that the universities can stay operational. And it was even harder after, the COVID and the challenges that were posed by COVID. But because of the different resources at each of the universities, it means some universities get impacted far more than others. At Stellenbosch, we were able to kind of buffer some of these challenges after the COVID, because we had to move to online training. So those systems were already in place, and it just creates a lot of ease if resources are there. So yeah, so this is something we are battling with, and it shows that we actually need a lot of researchers and trained, skilled people working in government who can provide some better insights in running our country. Basically, the system also is governed around these four big policies and strategies for science, technology, and innovation development in the country. So there's been a lot of shifts about where we're going to put our resources as a country and how we're going to shape the university of the future to speak to the needs of South Africa. And the first one was the National Development Plan, and it's still underway. The strategies to support that are also still underway, and I'll share a little bit about that. We have the Decadal Plan. It was approved last year, 2022, but it's from 2021 until 2031 in this Decadal Plan, which I will share a little bit, some insights around that. And then we're also looking at our contribution in the continent, and there's a lot of focus on driving our research to look at the AU Agenda 2063. And then we have the white paper on science, technology, and innovation, which is basically a strategy document on how are we going to improve South Africa, how are we going to utilize research to solve economic challenges and societal challenges that we face in our country. So the white paper is basically a strategy document, and we want to use it to look at how the science, technology, and innovation landscape can help South Africa, how we can use innovation to help improve the lives of our people and how we do things in our country, and also be responsive to the digital economy. A lot of focus on the fourth industrial revolution. University of Johannesburg has a very big strategic focus in that area of IR. The white paper also identified some of the challenges that we have in our system, and that we need to develop. The first one is the human capacity, training our staff, training our researchers, training students, the workforce of the future, the knowledge workforce of the future. There's a big focus around that. And we are not utilizing all the science, technology, and innovation currently in order to address some of our socioeconomic problems. And so this is highlighted quite a bit in the white paper. And then that we are not talking to each other. We're not working with industry. We're not working, academia, government, and the society are not engaging together on how to utilize this and how to support innovations to be able to address some of the socioeconomic problems. Then there is no money to fund this. And as much as Black people are representing or are the majority in our population, many of them are not participating. They're not participating in the economy. What I did not mention was we actually quite have a lot of dependency on the social system of the government. There's a lot because of high unemployment rates. And this is becoming a challenge if we're not going to have young people participating in the economy. And we need to educate them. So we need education systems that are open, accessible, and teaching in more innovative ways that seeks to solve socioeconomic challenges that we face. We're not, universities, we're not using a lot of the diverse income streams that we can generate. And you can see that the discrepancies, in fact, very big differences among the universities. So universities in the top 10 usually have many different systems of generating income, but there's a high level of government dependency on research funding. So there's a lot of competition for money. So there were some shifts that were recommended from this white paper. And I'll just highlight a few, is to focus on making the research system work. Also focusing on how we utilize the innovations that we produce. So most of the universities now are focusing on how to take knowledge products and make them usable to the knowledge user, who is the public and the government and industry. Okay, so the Decadal plan is actually a strategic document that helps us. It's a step-by-step document that is supposed to help us in line up the white paper information. Sorry to say that. Yeah, so there's a focus on societal grand challenges, mainly climate change, because you can see we are having a global challenge around that, but we are active in the climate change system, both UP and Stellenbosch, and we will give some highlights about how we are doing this at institutional level. Then future-proofing education and skills. So we need to make sure that we are producing graduates that can participate economically, they can engage, but they can also be the job creators. They can be ready for those emergent economies that don't exist yet. And so we need to make sure that we train our students and our graduates to be ready for such environments, and also to train the existing workforce in order to be responsive and also be innovative in how we do things. Okay, so the points that I've made there on chapters, they are all the different thematic areas in the Decadal plan. There's also a big focus on monitoring and evaluation. And I think for the time that we've been here, there's been a lot of discussion around how important it is to make sure that whenever we develop all these plans and strategies, we are able to monitor, evaluate, and then use that to improve. There's a whole ecosystem on supporting entrepreneurship and innovation. Main supporters of that, sorry, I'm missing a logo, sorry. But we have the Technology Innovation Agency, the National Advisory Council of Innovation, and they support entrepreneurship development and commercialization of research. So they fund a lot of spin-outs. They fund universities to create startup hubs and incubator hubs, training around entrepreneurship. At Stellenbosch University, we have the Launch Lab and the Innovation Office. Wits University, they have the Enterprise Center where you do commercialization activities. There's also the entrepreneurship development in higher education, and they usually have a conference or a big meetup in June of each year called the Lekgotla. Lekgotla means gathering in Sesotho, and usually in villages, when they call a Lekgotla, it means you're going to deliberate something big, something that's going to change the way we do things, or a big decision. And those are important in traditional systems to have, where you communicate the way forward, where are you going, more like a vision setting space. And it's a very important word to know. But the Lekgotla brings about all these 26 universities, and there's lots of investment on supporting student entrepreneurship development. So students come in, they present their businesses that came out of their research. Some is not research related, and they just try to solve some of the social problems. We have a lot of townships or informal settlements, and there's a lot of encouragement around how to uplift or develop economies in these townships, so that people don't always feel pressures to go to the big city, to find a job, but they can actually create an economy right where they live. And students are encouraged to do this so that they can actually participate. They are Africa's got the youngest population, and they also, that population is unskilled and not working. So we actually need to create mechanisms for them to be economically active. And this emphasizes the role of the university in driving economic development. Then the Department of Higher Education has this University Capacity Development Grant, which was a very directed around supporting early career researcher development. And they have 7 projects that they do and allocate funding to each university. One is on the staff qualification. I mentioned the 45% of staff that don't have a PhD, and we want to change that, because the more staff with PhD, the more PhD graduates we can actually produce, so which will help us reach our target of having 6,000 PhD graduates per year. Then there's a researcher career development for mid and early career researchers, and they're training these young people who are just new faculty within 5 years of their PhD, and they help them to develop their academics, strengthen their teaching skills, etc. And then improving staff research productivity, innovation, and quality. So they support research activities, helping them with funding, helping them increase visibility, etc. So there's quite a range of training available. Then the supervision development. Yes, we need good supervisors. We need people who can teach. We need people who can mentor well and groom the next generation of researchers. Then the mobility is to improve a lot of activities between early career researchers to ensure that they build their networks. We need the networks also for our internationalization goals. And then promoting postgraduate quality. These are supporting students in their postgraduate studies, often presentations on grants and writing your thesis to ensure that we produce the best students. Then the Women Leadership Development Program. Yes, because we want to increase the number of women leaders in academic spaces, and also the rating system, which we will talk about a little bit later, where we want to increase the number of women leading researchers also in our country. We also have the research outputs policy. I think South Africa is the only country that subsidizes researchers for publication. So the subsidy, publication subsidy, for every research paper that is published, there is a subsidy and income that can be generated from the government, from the Department of Higher Education and Training, which is fed back into the university to stimulate more research. And it's been good in terms of driving research productivity in all our institutions. And the main idea was also to incentivize researchers to spend more time doing research and publishing, which obviously means that it will increase the rankings of our universities. Then they also have an accreditation system. So not every article that you publish can get the subsidy. It has to be in accredited journals, and these are submitted by the institution. But also it helps us map the productivity of each and every one of our university, and help the government guide the funding where it needs to go. Where do they need to support? Why are certain institutions publishing more, and what do they need to develop? I will keep mentioning the historically disadvantaged universities. So because of the apartheid legacy in our country, some universities that were historically universities for Black people did not have enough resources to be able to do world-class research. And yeah, so there's been quite a challenge with that. And one of the efforts of the redress is to help strengthen those universities. So there's directive to improve investment in those universities so that they can also operate at the same top level as some of our top universities in the country. So there's a big investment on that. For example, the DHET invested between 2012 and 2019 about 16 billion rand towards subsidy support at universities. However, you know, with this kind of incentive system, you can imagine that we have to actually improve around issues of ethics and research integrity, because people can play the system. And so there's been quite an increase in these reported perverse behaviors and bad research practices, you know, from self-citation to, you know, salami slicing researches and doing all sorts of things just to ensure that these subsidies can be gained. But the DHET's policies constantly improve because they focus on, you know, looking at data, looking at the research and assessing and monitoring how we are performing in order to be responsive to such things. So they keep evaluating the number of journals in their accredited journals list. They keep re-looking at the researchers. They call out people who show bad practices, and they can even reject some of the subsidies if you are proven to not be you know, conducting yourself with integrity as a researcher. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna hand over this part to Michael, and it will lead into the next section. Michael.
Thank you very much, Palesa. Palesa has mentioned a lot of challenges that we have as institutions, higher institutions in South Africa, and also now about the policies that the government, the stakeholders have been putting together to ensure that we overcome those challenges. And I need to also mention that quality of research is quite very important, and also now how to translate the knowledge into very good products that will benefit the society, which means we are looking into having the impact nationally or locally, and also now looking into how we can contribute to the global context in this area. And one of the things that we also look at is to also mention that we have high quality researchers, the researchers that have what it takes to compete internationally. Because when you have what it takes, your quality of research is regulated very well, monitored, controlled, then it will lead to a very good behavior when it comes to research conduct. And because of that, the National Research Foundation has a rating system. In the rating system, which I would say is specific or unique to South Africa, is to ensure that all our researchers are benchmarked within the country and also now benchmarked with their peers internationally. So what we do is this, we look at this every year, they are asked now to submit. And when you are submitting application on the NRM rating system, you are expected now to provide information about yourself as a researcher, what you have accomplished as a researcher, and also now your capacity development, which consider the knowledge creation and also now the capacity development in research. And also now we also look at what are the other things that you are planning to do in the next year. And what we do is that we look at the period, what you have achieved 5 years before, prior to that submission, and what you are going to also now consider in terms of your achievement or what you plan to do in the next 5 years. So this peer review process is also now done by a panel that is independently constituted by the National Research Foundation. The panel comprises 42 specialists and committees coordinated by a convener. And we have the 10 chairpersons and 10 assessors from different fields, depending on different areas of research within the country. Then there will be, after that, these are the people that will look into the quality of what you have done, your application. Even they will invite reviewers from outside the country, Europe, US, and other parts of the countries as well. So they will do that. And after that, the reviewers will make recommendations based on what you have submitted, because when you have submitted your application, you are also asked now to submit your best 5 publications that you have, so that they also look into that and couples with other things, your ORCID and all, link will be provided and all sorts of things like that. So they will have to look into that. And in this category, we have 5 main categories in the rating system. We have what we call category A, which means if you have the category A, you have been considered to be a leading international researcher in your specific field that you have you are an expert in. Then we have category B. Category B, you are not a leading international researcher yet, but you are an internationally acclaimed researcher, which means you enjoy a lot of international collaboration, a lot of international recognition from other colleagues as well. Then we have C, which is category C, so you are an established researcher. So which means you can do a lot of independent research work that will lead to a very high quality work. And we have category Y, which we call promising young researchers. These are the upcoming researchers, the emerging researchers that they have shown that kind of promising research capability. Then we have the prestige P, we call it prestigious award. It's also now for someone that is upcoming, but not yet at the level of a promising young researcher. But we can see that we have that kind of a capability to do well, that to become a very good researcher as well. Palesa, could you go forward further? So another thing that we also look into, because we were in South Africa, we are trying to ensure that there's a kind of very robust and healthy competitions among our researchers. And that one helps them now to also now do a lot of work to benchmark themselves, to improve on the quality of research they do. We have what we call NSTF South 32 Award. And it's, we refer to it as South African Science Oscar Awards that we give to. It's very competitive. You must have done something that is quite extraordinary in terms of contributing to research capacity, research development, kind of things like in South Africa. There are different categories as well, gotten about 10 or even 10 to 15 categories. We have the one that considers your contributions now in the engineering capacity development. We have the one that also now considers your capability in as a researcher. We call it researcher award as well. And we have the one that's also for senior researchers or established researchers, and we have also now for those that are upcoming. We call them Young Researcher Award or an upcoming researcher award as well. And it's also now for this, you submit your application. There will also be a panel, which will be from within and outside South Africa, that will review your application to come up with the recommendations to see whether you've been able now to contribute exceptionally now to research and innovation in South Africa. Last year, I was one of the finalists in this, to show that, well, we are trying out to benchmark ourselves and also to see. Another colleagues have also won this award. Even at my department, I've won, so someone that won that award last year. We were both finalists on this. Palesa, could you? Yeah. Now, let me just tell you about what my university has been doing in terms of contributing to the quality and also now sustainable research capacity in South Africa, and especially now looking into how to work within the challenges that we have as a country, also now as higher education institutions in South Africa. Palesa, could you go? Yeah. Yes. This is just a nice picture of my university, quite very beautiful. Next, please. Then this is where we have the student center. We call it the student center. And the student center, we said there are a lot of cafeteria there. You have restaurants. We have where students always meet. And the idea is that this kind of center brings students together, where they can sit down and discuss what they have learned in classes, maybe all at lectures during the day, and together during the lunchtime. Even now, some of them, they sit down together to complete their assignment. You can see during nice weather. And another thing about this is looking at my university, it was established in 1908. It's going to be 115 years this year. And previously now it existed as a branch of a university, Transfer University College at that time. And in 1930 now it's moved into a very good full-fledged university, which became the first South African university to establish business schools, institutes of management and administration, which actually now developed or metamorphosized into what we call the Graduate Institute of Business Studies, business science, very internationally claimed or recognized the business institution in the university. And well, if you look at it now, look at the chronological order of the development and transformation of that for my university. Even in 2019, we had a kind of transdisciplinary research platform was added, where we have what we call Engineering 4.0, Future Africa Institute, Innovation Africa, and also now the Jarvet UP Art Center. It has been very transdisciplinary in nature, we do. And in 2020, UP leads the way in leveraging technology during the COVID, which we all know that the problem. So there were a lot of research that came into being, which also now helped in terms of developing some kind of, I would say, vaccine or kind of materials now to mitigate COVID-19 during 2022. And can you go further, please? And looking into that now, we develop a kind of what we call the UP Reimagined 2022 to 2026, where we look into ways of enhancing the quality and also now how we can achieve our goals as an institution amidst the challenges that we have in South Africa. So looking at it again, now we look into the academic offering of my institution. We've gotten 9 faculties. We have 1 business school, which I've mentioned, the GIBS. We have 4 centers of excellence, 51 research chairs. I will discuss about what we mean by research chairs later to you, maybe in the next slide. And we have a research institute as well, which I've also now mentioned a bit of them, 82. Then we have close to 1,180 study programs, academic departments, 120. Then we have we give out certificate degrees, even diplomas, which is about 237 every year. And when you look at the impact ranking, the impact ranking of the university according to the Times Higher Education in 2022, you can see that UP was named second best, and African third best, joined together with other universities like Stellenbosch, like the other university like Wits University, to become rated globally. And in terms of the international profile, the university is ranked among the top 1% internationally in 13 fields: agricultural science, biology and biochemistry, chemistry, clinical medicine, engineering, environment and ecology, even are looking at social sciences as well. And I can say that even the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and Information Technology is ranked first in Africa, first in South Africa as well, which means, amidst the problem we have, challenges, we can still try to achieve the goals. In terms of the student profile, a total of 53,000, more than 53,000 students are enrolled every year. And in terms of the number of postgraduate students, we've gotten close to around 17,000. And that's what makes the university a research-intensive university, because we want to increase the number of our postgraduate students even beyond this almost 17,000 we have. And we keep on looking into that every day, thinking about different strategies to do that. And what we will have loved is to have less of postgraduate, less of undergraduate, but more of postgraduate. And that's why it is very important concerning the strategy of even now the Decadal plan of the South African government, is to see that we increase the number of our doctoral staff, the staff, academic staff that have the doctoral degree. Currently now, across all the university, 45%, we have to go more than that. In my faculty, we've gotten up to 70%, which is still way less compared to the expected increase in the number of postgraduate students, because it's only academic with PhD that could train someone with PhD. So that could train someone, a student that is a PhD candidate. So we have to consider that one very well. So other things are there in terms of rating, which I've mentioned to you, how we do that rating and how we benchmark to look at the quality. And I've mentioned a lot of things about that. Palesa, could you go further, please? And something that is very important, please, Palesa, can you go back? Thank you. Something that is very important, which I will highlight here now, is the transformation in terms of the Black student that we have, and also now the women. We can see that the women in 2021, 57% of the total students we have, 53,000, we have 57.4% of them to be women, and 62.5% to be Black students. And in terms of our postgraduates, we also look at that as well. We have 71% to be Black postgraduate students. This Black may not necessarily be from Black South Africa, they might be within Africa, and 59% of them are female. So we can see now that we are trying to look into gender transformation, looking into that in terms of considering women, to encourage them to come and to study, to have a good life compared to even our male student. But we are looking into that, and even if you see the racial transformation as well from Black, it was formerly white dominated, but now we are trying to balance that to have more of our Black to come in, which is very good for the country in terms of interaction, and also now changing the landscape of the economy of the country as well, which will eventually now lead to reduction in poverty level, so to say. So can we go further, please? Yes. This is just to showcase our alumni that has been game changers for the university in terms of what they have achieved. We had the Miss South Africa in 2022 was our alumni from commerce and we call it economics, management, and commerce. Or studies, which is a faculty in the department. I mean, sorry, in the university. Then we all know, if we watch this Olympic in 2021, Tatiana, who took the gold medal for the country, and actually now it's our student who graduated in 2020, and a lot of others as well that the university has produced. We can also see a lot of things that have just, and the university has produced close to about 320,000 alumni, or in what, that are scattered across about 120 countries globally. So we can see ourselves now to also now being the top, maybe top 100 in the world in terms of areas like zoology, veterinary science, economics, like that as well. And we look at other things now, we can put the university has been doing very well in terms of being top 200 in the world, infectious diseases, agriculture, language, communication and culture, law and legal studies as well. And we've gotten a lot of our department in terms of the subject area to be among the top 50 in the world, like in our mining engineering, which has been ranked as the first in South Africa, even in Africa, and among the top 50 in the world. Can you go further, please? Amidst all these achievements, we still want to see, the university want to see itself, we want to see ourselves now to move to the first in Africa, and to also now work together with others. And that's why we have our strategic goals of the university we have 5 main strategic goals, which we are working towards. And the first one is to try now to enhance the access and successful student learning, to look at how to strengthen the social responsiveness and impact of the university in that society, to even strengthen the, we want to strengthen our research profile and our research and international profile. And another thing is that, which I think is quite very important, Palesa also mentioned that we want to foster and sustain the capacity, either in the research sphere or even in the teaching sphere. We want to make sure that we have what it takes to retain. And not only retaining, we want to also now make sure that there's inclusivity and equitable. Like what we did, we did, I think that was last week, when we look into equality and equity. And actually now we have to make sure that we consider inclusiveness as well. And that's what we are working towards. And you can see what I presented, that we are trying now to bring that transformation, inclusiveness. But in terms of equitable and equality, we are still far a bit from that, but we are working towards that as well. And another thing that is quite very important, one of the strategic goals, is to optimize our resources. Like Palesa mentioned, one of the challenges is, like mentioned, is load shedding, that has given a dirty blow on the research and capability, teaching capability of institutions in South Africa. So we are trying to look at how can we still keep ourselves sustainable in terms of research, being able now to do high quality research, being able now to give transformative teaching and learning to our students by using what we have in terms of our resources. So those are the things we are looking into now to ensure institutional sustainability. Palesa, go forward, please. And I mentioned this one about UP Reimagined 2022 to 2026. That's something that we are focusing on. We want to reimagine the way we do things. And one of the things that we have mentioned is strategic goals. One of our guiding principles which we are working on, and we are opening the door to different kind of changes in policies, collaboration. So we want to seek transformative approaches to most of the things we do. We want to collaborate a lot. And we want to mobilize an alliance partnership. And that's why we're also now looking into different institutions within and outside. There will be a delegate from my university that will be coming to MSU I think as from next week, they will also now trying to see how they can mobilize an next partnership that they already have with MSU and other neighboring universities. And the idea is that co-creation is one of the things we look into. We can't do that alone. We want to work with others now to make sure that we co-create. And we all know that technology is quite very evolving these days. So we want to leverage on technology advancement for development. And we want to reinvent our approaches as well to achieve our goals. Next, please. And I've mentioned something about research that we do, but I just want to show what are the research themes that we have, and institute and centers are also now chairs. Forward, and look at the research and international presence that we have in South Africa, especially now my university. When you look at the left-hand side here now, we have research focus area that is about 10, looking into agriculture and a sustainable food system, climate change and the environment, economic development and sustainable futures, energy, heritage studies. We'll also look at smart infrastructure and innovation. We look at water. Even now, recently now, the Faculty of Engineering, within the Faculty of Engineering, built environment and information technology. Now we are trying to look into what we call the smart twin city. So with architecture, looking into how we can bring everything in terms of our community to have, you have a kind of a small community. That's the model we are looking into, but everything works well in terms of technology, in terms of utility. You ensure that you provide maximum or you look at optimal utilization of what you have in the community. That's what we are also working on together with other departments, even other faculties also now with Faculty of Engineering. Other things that is very important, which I will also now quickly mention, which is something on the right-hand side, and as water, energy, food nexus. Very, very important. And that's even at the key research focus of the Faculty of Engineering, the Faculty of Natural and Agricultural Science, and a lot of things like natural science and agriculture as well. We do a lot of things in that area as well. And another thing I want to emphasize is human rights and diversity. We also look into that. We champion that within the university. Next, please. Yeah, it's a pleasure to mention that my university has the first virtual mine in Africa. And what we do now, this for the first virtual mine is in the Department of Mining and Engineering, where you can actually now visualize and do a lot of simulation in the mining operation before even now you go to the mining site to translate the knowledge you've obtained from the simulation that you've done in the virtual space, which is quite very helpful because it has revolutionized the way you do things in the mining sector. So those are the things now that are also now one of the things that we are beginning now to look into and to bring on board to as a research tool that will help in the mining engineering. We know that South Africa has been the South Africa economy is built on mining. So we have to look into that as well. And that's what UP has done to bring this on board. And we can also assist other African countries that are also into mining operation. Next, please. And this is mentioned this first, this engineering 4.0 is the first kind of it in Africa. It's also a research facility. And what we do then now, we have a lot of things like looking into smart transportation research. Recently now we look into, because when you have Apple is produced in South Africa. We also export it to other countries as well. But during the period of transition from one point to the other, most of these are damaged. Even they are rotting. Most of the fruit, they're also rotting before they reach other countries. So, and that one affects the economic benefit, or the economic, I would say the economic profit of the agricultural sector. So that's why we try not to look at smart transportation. And what we did is that there will be, we mimic that by having a kind of a chip. There's a chip within a model of a fruit. And that one was transported, we kept with, and at any point we have a way of monitoring, collecting data. In the data collection, it will be at the engineering 4.0. So we'll be able to, at any point in the world where we can collect data to be able to monitor the impact of the transportation on the fruit that is being transported, which is quite very phenomenal in terms of understanding the shelf life, in terms of understanding the impact of the transportation of any kind of agricultural produce on the shelf life, and also now the lifespan of it as well. So next, please. And this is also now, which I've also mentioned, Future African Leadership Development. We have the Future Africa Campus. Some of our colleagues at MSU, they have been there for meetings. Jose was there, and some other people have been there where we hold meetings on that is focusing on leadership development in Africa. So it's a facility that all our African countries are given the opportunity to make use of. And also now, what even are very important then, as they do bring emerging researchers or young researchers from different African countries now to meet together to stay like maybe about a month to 6 months on this campus, where they have different activities now that will develop their skills. And they are also attached to different faculties in the universities to mentor them. And they all meet on this. On this campus, we have accommodation system. Accommodation is there. We have also now different kind of facilities that will make the stay on campus. It's just like a campus that we have, which is quite very unique. Further, please. Next. Yeah, I mentioned something about South African research chairs initiatives. It's part of the national plan, a strategic plan of the country, to ensure that we have researchers that are focusing on a particular problem. And in that case now, the idea is to increase the number of world-class researchers in South Africa. And not only that, we want to retain and attract Black qualified research scientists, which is the way of bringing the transformation in the research landscape of South Africa. And another thing that is quite very important is the focus of that we call it SACHI chair, is to look at the strategic research focus across the knowledge spectrum in South Africa. And we also try not to look at that in terms of creating the research pathways for developing highly skilled and high quality young and mid-career researchers, which is about having a very solid succession plan in place for our experienced and senior researchers, because that one is quite very important. And we use that place because when you have the research chair, there will be a senior researcher, then you have someone that is like a mid-career researcher under you, then you have postgraduate students or young researchers. You could be early career researcher that's also working with you. And the idea is to train them. And it's quite, it could be for 15 years. Initially, it would be 5 years, renewable every 5 years based on the quality and what you have done in terms of meeting your objectives. And that's the way we have that in a lot of, all South African universities. Stellenbosch has a lot, UPRs and other universities as well. Next, please. And to complement that as well, the effort in that area, we also have industry chairs. And the industry chairs, what it means that you have some industries that are ready to sponsor a particular or to establish a particular chair on a particular initiative, which is so complementary to what they do in the industry as well. And that one is quite very important indeed, because it helps us now to expose our researchers now to the industry settings as well. And not only that, it has been used as a platform to also train our undergraduate and even postgraduate, because if you have an industry chair in your university, in time within the collaboration, there will be times for internship within the industry where you can expose your students to different kind of industrial operations. And that one helps them now to link their theoretical knowledge to the practical knowledge that they are going to make use of when they eventually now graduate. And another thing that is also very important in this is bring that kind of collaboration between academia and industry, which we always want, UP has more than 30 industry chairs distributed among all our 9 faculties in the university. So we have that, and they have sponsored maybe for 5 years, even out to 15 years. I'm working on one currently now together with, and another thing is that if one industry cannot, because we look at different tier, we have tier 1, tier 2. Tier 1 is for a full professor, tier 2 is somebody with associate, must be an associate professor for tier 2. So if a company cannot provide all the money required, that company can partner with another company, another industry to also sponsor that. We can have more than 2, we can have like 3. But different of them now, they will bring on board what will be their interest in terms of research and landscape of that in the industry chair. Next, please. And these are the samples of research chair, which we call South African research chairs initiatives in my universities. We have a lot of them. Even now we have something in sustainable malaria control, where we have been developing a lot of malaria control solutions within Africa, which have been tested in different other African countries. Something about artificial intelligence, which is quite very important as well. We even have something on carbon technologies and materials within my department, which we look into to see how we can come up with what we call the advanced and applied materials using the carbon we have to do that, because South Africa also now we have a lot of coal, and we want to make use of this coal to develop other things that are quite very important and bring sustainability in South Africa, in Africa, and in the globe as well. Next. And these are samples of research institutes and centers. I brought this one up specifically now because I believe now it might be very, the African Study Center might have an interest or develop an interest in this. For instance, we have this African Study Center for Studies of the United States, which could be a kind of a collaboration. That area, then we have the ARUA in the area of sustainable food system, then Center for Asian Studies in Africa. Then we have this the UP Natural Hazard Center Africa, which also now look into kind of things like that. We have Center for Evaluation and Assessment that looks into how best you can bring sustainable assessment to enhance transformative teaching and learning in the higher institutions. Then we have the Center for Diversity and Social Cohesion, where you want to make sure that transformation, gender transformation, or to promote equity and equality across the globe. Next, please. This is quite very important. I brought it up because it has also now had a kind of a wide, worldwide collaboration network. You can see a lot of network of this institute. They call it Forestry and Agricultural Biotechnology Institute. And it's a kind of it's so transdisciplinary in such a way that it brings together about more than 4 faculties like EBIT, NAS, and even EMS. A lot of them. I'm also on the board of advisory board of this institute. We meet every year. You see enormous people that are there, and it's only for postgraduates, which is also now underlining the importance or the goal of the university now to be research intensive. We do have a lot of collaboration on this with a lot, even in America, in South America, in America as well. You can also now look at different kind of European countries, even African countries, going to Asia as well, and Australia. So a lot of things like that they do. If you see what they have done, they even come up with a lot of products in the area of forestry, in the area of agriculture, and also now in the biotechnology for different kind of things. Next, please. How do we manage the research? It's quite very important, and that's why I came to look at the best practices that MSU has in terms of research management. How do they overcome a lot of challenges? Because we believe that we are not, as South Africa or South African institutions are not only institutions in the globe that has a lot of problems. So we have to also look at how do you manage, how do you overcome those challenges when they come. Next, please. Yeah, at UP, we have what we call the Department of Research and Innovation. The Department of Research and Innovation is under the auspice leadership of the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Postgraduate Studies. And that is the unit within the university that manages everything related to research. Research ethics, technology transfer office, research contracting, a lot of things like that. Even now, the international partnership as well. And also the support to our early career researchers, to the established researchers, even to the emerging researchers. Everything is done by this department. And looking at the huge task given to this department, and that's why one of the things I plan to do as my reform is to see how we can decentralize these the activities of this unit to different, at different faculty level, where we have at different faculty level there will be a unit that works together with DRI. Though in different faculties you have the Deputy Dean of Research and Postgraduate Studies, but there's no specific unit in each faculty that caters or that focuses only on the research and development and support. Next, please. The international office, we have that as well, that looks into international cooperation, where we could look at, take care of the international students that are exchange, they may be coming in and out of the, to join us in the university. And also now we look after this also, this department also look at, or the unit looks after our international students. But in terms of exchange with other partners outside there, then we look at mobility opportunities. Our students going to other universities, others are coming to us as well. A lot of them, like that, also as the head of department, I've met and discussed with a lot of people from outside that are trying to do exchange. And with that, I've brought in even 2 or 3 students from outside Africa to do part of their studies with us. Further, please. Funding is an issue, serious problem that is not only peculiar to South African institutions. Globally, it's becoming an issue, but it's something that we are looking into. Presently now, the source of funding at my university, we rely primarily on the student tuition and fees, and also now on the external funding that we get, either big, like when you have the big grant from external, like a USAID, or you have Horizon 2020 funding, or you have something out from NSF or other kind of funding like that, even from National Research Foundation. And we also have support from our government in terms of allocation, subsidies from publication, which Palesa also mentioned. And this is one way that the government has been using out to support all the universities in South Africa. But this is not enough. Why? Because Palesa also mentioned no student unrest, they want to be funded, and most of the funding that the government was using initially now to support the university has been diverted to supporting the students. And we have donations from alumni who donate, even endowment fund, and we are also looking seriously into this. And that's why it is very important that if we can increase our external funding and also now increase the donation and endowment, then we would depend less on the student tuition. Will not be increasing the tuition every year or every 2 years, which has been instrumental to student unrest, or the government that is not even providing because the economy is not doing very great at the moment. Next, please. Palesa mentioned something about the Decadal plan, which also looks into entrepreneurship. And we are tax innovation, because the tax innovation is a kind of an hub, entrepreneurship hub in the university that looks into development of our young researchers in terms of taking, we call it from lab to market. What you have in the lab you've done, we want to see how you work on that now to ensure that it hands up outside there to the end user, the society that is going to make use of that. And when we look into that now, we consider this business incubation. We also work with corporate partnership in terms of taking it further, and we consider student entrepreneurship. And that's why it's very important that when you have any idea, we always encourage, go to the tax innovation. They are going to accelerate your thoughts, bringing it from the conceptualization to something feasible in terms of the product that could be used outside there. We encourage this a lot. Next, please. And Palesa mentioned this enterprises, we call it, it's like a spin-out company from the university. And what this unit does is consultancy services and patenting, and also commercialization of a lot of, now, when you have the patent has been granted, they want to also do the licensing of the patent for anybody that is interested to make use of that. And even now, in some cases now, we do a lot of disclosure about the product that they will help us now to contact other industrial partners that may be interested working with us now to take it further in terms of developing it to something that could be commercially used outside. So they do the training, research solutions, and also now patenting and licensing. And I've even done a bit of work with them, even with governmental institutions also come to see how university help them in maybe developing policies, looking into technologies or some kind of things that they can make use of in terms of governance of the country. Yes, next, please. Incentives have been mentioned. It is very important to also now provide something that will encourage our researchers to keep on doing their work, to keep on doing the good work they've been doing in terms of enhancing the quality, also now developing human capacity, research capacity in that in their area of interest. Next, please. And one of the things that we do now at UP, we have what we call the award. We call it a different kind of academic awards that we give, or at times we refer to them as Achievers Award. They have achieved. And this also now you have to submit is nomination will come from different faculties, even from different departmental, from different departments in the university, within the faculties. There will be a committee that comprises academics, also industrial people from industry, and some other now from the governmental parastatals as well. They will sit down, they look at that, and they will come up with the winners of this award. And we've gotten Vice Chancellor's Scholarly Book Award for the best book of the year. And we have Chancellor's Award for research, the best researchers of the year could be in different faculties, even at different universities, at different faculties or at the university level. Then we have Exceptionally Academic Achiever Award, which we look at, could be one or two within the university. Then we also cater for the young researchers, the emerging, the early career researchers as well, by giving them Exceptionally Young Researcher Award. Then we have the Vice Chancellor Award for Excellent Supervision, because we want to encourage that. To be a research-intensive university, you have to also understand the relationship between you and the graduate student. How do you supervise? And how happy is that graduate student that you have supervised? And what skills should we provide for you in terms of having that skills of supervising the graduate student? So those are the things that we also now look into, and we have trainings for that. I've also done something in that area that I have a certificate in postgraduate supervision, which is quite very important to understand how do you do that. And apart from that, we also have what we call the Teaching Excellence Award, which we also give to the best lecturers in each faculty every year. Do that. Next. We've discussed about this. I don't think I will mention this. I've discussed about this, but I think it's very important to highlight what are the potential collaborations that might be very, very useful for MSU, especially now, the African Studies Center. I see most of the things I've mentioned, I've seen a lot of potential collaborations with MSU African Studies Center, which we might try to explore. But in the other areas, also now in the agriculture, like in the agricultural engineering, I went there, I saw a lot of things. forResearch, we do a lot of things. College of Engineering, you can also look at National Service, and also now MSU College of Natural Science. Those are the things that I believe could bring that kind of collaboration to enhance the quality of what we do locally and also now globally. So it's very important to explore that further. Thank you very much. Next. Yes, Palesa, over to you. SU at a glance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mo. Okay, so I'm just mindful of the time, so I'm just gonna, some of the things we do are quite similar to the University of Pretoria. So I'm just gonna give you a brief. So this is just the academic profile and the global positioning of our university. We are second in South Africa. I just wanna, sorry, something is distracting me. So we are very big on internationalization, and we are really focusing on developing our international profile further, but also with a big focus again back into African linkages. We have a new Deputy Vice Chancellor. She just started in September of last year, but this is basically the organogram of the university management, and I'm within the Division for Research Development. So Stellenbosch University's vision is to be the leading research-intensive university in Africa, and with a global impact that was focused on research for society, a research impact for society. And this has been outlined in several of our strategies because we believe that we need to create knowledge that has solutions for our society. And we are really trying our best to line up with the national strategies such as the NDP and the Decadal plan outlined that I mentioned before. The strategic focus areas for us are to create a thriving community with a transformative student experience. There's a lot of issues around transformation and redress in our university, so there's a concerted effort to improve that. We want to improve on our partnerships and develop inclusive networks, and we want to collaborate and strengthen our learning for our students and for our academics, and to be an employer of choice. This shows our 5 strategic research themes, in which all our centers and departments are split into, and all of them are driven by the need for basic research. And we imagine ourselves like a cityscape. If you can see all this white background is like a cityscape. And at the foundation of that cityscape would be the basic research, which is driven around these 5 themes. Which is the natural environment, and we have all the centers around that, the health and human security, social justice, human creativity and social innovation, systems and technologies for the future. And there's a lot of collaboration within these different strategic themes. And I will share a little bit about some of the units that we develop or new schools that we develop to cross-cut between these. because we understand the importance of multidisciplinarity when we are doing our research. I'm going to skip this. And our framework is driven around people, and the people is our community. At Stellenbosch, we are the top leader in terms of the number of postdocs in South Africa. We have a structured office, structured program around postdocs. We are driving a lot of the dialogue around postdoctoral support, which is my office, my unit. And we are driven by our strategy. So all the strategy creates our mandate for how we run the university, and the development of appropriate resources and infrastructure in order for us to reach that. I mentioned the multidisciplinarity and creating linkages between our different strategic research themes. We've recently launch the School for Climate Change and the School for Data Science and Computational Thinking in line with these. And to also improve on our monitoring and evaluation, which is a requirement under the Decadal plan. And we really want to map ourselves as we are developing as an institution towards our Vision 2040 and also in our Strategic Vision 2040. So some of our successes to date, we have about 320 bilateral partner institutions across the world. We have 76 postdocs. We want to double that. We just submitted a funding proposal for institutional funding to double that. But also my role is to, make the university an attractive destination for postdoctoral researchers to interest them in doing their postdocs at Stellenbosch University. And we're looking to diversify the funding mechanisms for that and to foster collaboration among our institutions. So those partnerships, developing and strengthening those partnerships is essential to us. We have about 7 centers of excellence. Some are going to be joined together, and we're going to have, I think, 3 new ones. We have about 49 research chairs, which Michael mentioned. Based on the subsidy system, we publish quite a high number of publications around 2021. This is the last count. This year, we are doing the 2022 round, so we'll know how many publication units that was the equivalent. So one publication unit equals to one research output. It could be a book, it could be an article published in a peer-reviewed journal. Yeah, so I'm going to move on. In the Western Cape, where Stellenbosch is quite a unique environment. We have the Cape floristic region, which you can only find in the Cape. And that creates a very unique environment. We have the sea, we have the land, we have the vineyards. It's quite a nice environment to do very unique research. We have our first peoples, the Khoisan people in the Cape. There's quite a lot of diversity around the communities around the university, so it enables us to do very unique research. I already mentioned the strategic themes. We have a very big focus on research for impact. This is our big research agenda, and we want to talk to societal development and to engage with our stakeholders and to build a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in our university. And we have the Innovation Hub, as well as an incubator hub called the Launch Lab, where after our researchers do the commercialization through our innovation office, then when they have a spin out or a startup, they're supported through the Launch Lab. And the Launch Lab also curates a range of programs and training programs for students at undergraduate and graduate level, as well as researchers on entrepreneurship, and just to look at how to develop entrepreneurial mindsets among our researchers. We have launched a magazine called the Research for Impact, and this one we use it to share or disseminate knowledge that is produced in our institution and how it has impacted or how it has directly been applied in society. So every quarter, I think we will have this book. We have some of our flagship programs. And we have the Center for Epidemic Response and Innovation. Professor Tulio Oliveira is the researcher who identified the several COVID strains in South Africa, and they were the first to work on some of these unique strains, and he's a virologist. We have the Central Analytical Facility, which supports research across the continent. So we service a lot of institutions and training of researchers in this center. We have the School for Climate Studies, which I mentioned, which was launched also in 2022, and this focuses on policy and research around climate change. And there's been a focus now to look at engaging young graduates and young researchers in climate change studies, and they work in quite a collaborative fashion with engineering and agriculture and all that is related to that. So the School for Data Science also is split up. Some of the researchers are in the various departments of engineering and in the actuarial sciences, and they all come together to curate programs that our researchers can sign up into and learn. Recently, they did a course for our postdocs on data science. We have the National Institute of Theoretical and Computational Sciences, which is also in Stellenbosch. There are 3 nodes, the one at Stellenbosch and at Wits University and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And this is a large collaboration among our institution. And this is really speaking to our university's need for advancement and growing with other institutions in the country. So we want to collaborate more and more and to visualize our strategy of being the leading research university in Africa, rooted in Africa, and having a global impact. We have the Center for the Study of the Afterlife of Violence and Reparative Quest, and they really work on historical traumas, and they help us examine, the traumas of, our country's past, and their research really brings systemic changes and helps us understand some of the issues that we have in terms of developing our transformative agenda and really trying to understand each other in a country. Even though it's been 30 years or so that we've had our democracy, there's still a lot of issues that we are experiencing in our university, even in our country broadly, and we need this kind of research to help us. Some of the research they talk about is around dehumanization and themes around those themes. And creating really spaces for dialogue. The director for that institute is Professor Pumla Gobora Madigizela. And then we have the social justice, which is led by our former public protector, Professor Tulima Donsela. And really, the Social Justice Center has also created a lot of dialogue around these challenges we face in our society. And how research really speaks to society and how society perceives the research that we produce, and helps us as researchers and scientists to think about what are we, how are we contributing when we are doing research? How are we behaving? Are we applying integrity? Are we being ethical? In driving those research practices. Yeah, so I think for both of us, our university are pretty similar. So and we share a lot of similar mechanisms for doing research and managing research. And so we will leave you some room for questions. And thank you very much. And I think we want to say thank you to our team, Ama and Bikila and Solomon, for this great time here at Michigan, and learning together with them and learning their community, understanding, how the university works, and the various systems, and also everybody who's spent time with us from the various sections of the university administration. We want to say thank you very much. And we wrote there in like 4 languages. So thank you, Re a leboga, Nkosi,
Donkey,
Danki.
Kosi, go
So
white,
thank you. Go green.
go green.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Let me do the gallery view. All right. I want to thank you both so much for this very elaborate and very informative discussion as well. And thank you for those who have stayed with us until the end. I had questions, as you were talking, I had questions, pointed them down, and then I keep crossing them because they've been answered through your presentation, which is great, actually. But to open it up, and I welcome others to join in, we have about 20 minutes or so. So I've heard you talk about globalization, internationalization, like this is a need for our institutions as well, in terms of development, in terms of engagement with others outside our institutions. So as we see this push towards globalizing research, let's say in our universities, based on your areas of focus, how do you think, or how do your universities strike this balance between investing in research that can have a global and both global and local impact?
The first thing is having partnerships. I mentioned bilateral agreements. So these partnerships, if they are, managed effectively, in that researchers engage with each other, work together on a problem. And the problem does not have to be just a unique one to a specific area, but it should be a global issue. Climate change is a global issue. And if we partner and work and focus around areas where knowledge in that is underrepresented, and we want to develop that knowledge, that's how we engage each other within the partnerships. And right now, I mean, there's all these issues around north-south and south-south, and the challenge of funding is that whoever has the money can direct the research. So we should try to see how we improve and coordinate within those partnerships, so that it's not about the money, it's about solving the problem together. And the money just facilitates the ability to solve the problem together. So then people won't be resistant to participate in these kind of partnerships, and people won't be judgy and saying, oh, this is the north and this is the south and who's got the money and so on. But to be enable us to work towards solving a problem and using the money to facilitate our activities to solve the problem, that will affect all of us. So it's a matter of how do we utilize these kind of partnerships.
Yeah, if I may contribute to that, I always say that there's a need for us to globalize without sacrificing our local content and impact. Okay, I will give you an example. Global. I mean, climate change is a global problem. Food insecurity or shortage is a global problem. But we have different ways when we look at climate change. Climate change are quite very diverse in terms of I would say I would say they are localized in terms of what we experience from different kind of countries we have. And in terms of international, another thing in terms of the food security or food shortage problem that we have, food insecurity and food shortage, different region like Africa, we have different kind of food that we have. You understand, compared to other countries as well in America or Europe. And we need, and when we now internationalize, we share the ideas, the tools, the technology, but we bring those ideas and the technologies and technical know-how back home to understand how we can improve our own environment in terms of when we are looking at the climate change. And also now when we are considering the food insecurity and food shortage, we want to bring, so when we are in the international sphere, we want to exchange ideas, technical know-how, policies around that, which will be implemented back home. So internationalization without losing your localization, which is quite very important. I think that's the idea of going internationally, but local impact is quite very important. Bring them back home to make it sound. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So I hear kind of exchange of knowledge, that's global, that's international, as well as equal partnerships, and that's what AAP specializes on, focuses more. Yeah, it's part of learning from one another, but it's very important, as Palesa said, that while we talk about these partnerships or engage in these partnerships and collaborations, we should also talk about the ethics, the equality around them, the equity around them as well. So then, yeah, thank you. I think I will give others time to also chip in. I see Emmanuel, I see Hamadu, I see Jose, I see Haile. Duguma, let me call you Duguma. Any comments or questions for Michael, Palesa, Solomon to Bikila, Ama? Anyone with a question, comment?
Hello.
Yes, Ama.
Thank you, Palesa and Michael, for that extensive presentation on what your universities are doing in terms of research and innovation. I think when you started, you mentioned that South Africa has issue of power, electricity, I think, Palesa, when you did the intro. And then I was thinking, well, in Africa, South Africa is one of the go-to places. So I can imagine. So Michael, you being in the industry, like engineering, are there any research that are looking into any other forms of energy to supplement what the country has, to bring it, like, to move it out of that state? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Are there any research going on?
Yes, a lot of research going on. One of the research activities in that area is this hydrogen economy, because it's renewable, not only solving the problem of electricity, it's also now considering the issue of climate change as well. And we have this what we call a hydrogen Atlas Africa, in which we have a consortium of researchers, including UP, Stellenbosch, VIT, where we are looking into the hydrogen economy. And another thing that we know is specific on each country what you have. For instance, South African does not have this hydro, a lot of waterway which you can use as a hydroelectric generation, although in Western Cape they are working on that because they are very near to the coastal region, coastal area compared to other inland locked provinces. Nigeria as a country has a lot of water. Likewise, I know Ghana also looking into that. But apart from that is this what we call the solar energy, where you have different kind of solar panel, like we've seen even now in the MSU, and I see where the parking spaces they have now, they have the solar panel there now to attract this UV light and convert it to electricity. Although the problem is that you cannot, the efficiency of the highest efficiency of any solar panel you have is between 24 and 26% in terms of the utilization of sunlight energy. And that's why a lot of researchers are also research activities are going on in terms of increasing the efficiency of this silicon. We use silicon nanoparticles in this solar cell to come up with different kind of nanoparticles that will enhance the conversion efficiency of sunlight. If you are getting 100% and you're only utilizing or you are converting only 25% of that, it's not that good enough, but it's still working. Those are the things. So it's like you have an energy mix. There are a lot of energy mix, nuclear. Some people are, so even now South Africa is also considering nuclear, which is not that favorable at the moment, but it's something that is quite very powerful, which could also bring sustainability and stability in energy generation. And another thing that is quite very important that also we are working on in the research spheres in Africa is the utilization of our municipal waste and solid waste in terms of getting this biogas generation, which could also be you can use it now to power, to generate a small kilowatts of energy, which could be used, or which will be connected to the grid as well, the national grid, or even provincial grid as well, or in the state grid in different kind of countries where you use states as that. So there are lots of things going on. And my university currently now is also working with the University of Aberdeen on the area of hydrogen economy. And there will be a lot of delegates that will be going there also now to discuss a lot of things regarding that. But I want to tell you that it's a problem because we need to move away from coal. Coal has been the major source of electricity generation in South Africa. And this coal power plant is so old. No maintenance has been done for some years. And MSU has also moved away from coal, their power plant, to gas. And a lot of countries like Ghana also make use of gas, generating power plants. That's gas-fired power plants instead of other things. Those are the things we should be thinking of. Moving away from the fossil fuel to something that is renewable. And that's what the research in the area of energy has been looking into. Thank you very much, Abba. I don't know whether I've satisfied your curiosity.
Thank you.
Michael must also tell you that it costs a lot of money to use renewable energy in South Africa. So those things, the economy and just the challenges we have a lot of poor people who depend on support, and there's lots of subsidies, subsidized energy use, even water. So there's quite a lot of other issues besides the fact that there are innovations and there's opportunities for that. But the supply and the maintenance and then the need from people and the way our informal settlements were structured is very difficult to maintain supply, or to you just imagine, like only from 1994 some areas still did not have electricity. There are still areas who do not have electricity, and now we're suffering from electricity supply, energy supply, and there are still places that never had it never reached them. So you can imagine how far we still have to go. There's a lot that has to go back with how we are trying to get everybody to be at the same place, but also there are challenges. Our grids, our towns were never prepared to have the amount of people living in them. So there's a lot of issues, and these resources and renewable energy, etc., they're great, and the developments around that. But there's also other challenges that will still make it difficult for us. But in terms of universities and other spaces, right now we all are having these coping mechanisms, I would call them, to buffer the impact of the energy supply and the energy crisis right now. But I don't believe it's something that's gonna be a long term. Yeah. So.
Right. Thank you. So we have a question here from Haile. And he's first thanking you both for sharing your experiences. And then the question is, what progress has been made in collaborating with other academic institutions in Africa?
Cool. Okay, there's quite a lot. I mean, most of our universities are participating in research networks. Our researchers are collaborating across universities. I showed Stellenbosch has a lot of bilateral partnerships with African countries as well, and UP has the same. They are within some consortia, such as the Arua network of universities, the African Association of Universities. So they're participating in this consortium and networks where they're engaging with each other as research universities. Yeah, and today, you know, we were talking earlier on, but even those engagements need to be solidified by ensuring that people continue to work together, like they're doing research together across these institutions. That's the only way to strengthen those relationships. So yeah, there's a huge focus on developing competencies in African institutions and supporting researchers and making sure that we shared resources in these partnerships. So yeah, there's a long way to go, but yeah, we're going.
Yeah, in addition to that, you know, we do have that at the institutional level, and also now we have it at individual levels as well. Okay, and the consortium that I also mentioned is this AMRES. We call it African Material Research whatever network, and it brings together a lot of institutions in Africa. They work together. I've been part of that. I've gone to, it has taken me to Ghana, Botswana, you know, different to meet, and even we also supervise students together as well. So across to develop that kind of research capacity, also now the human capacity around that area. So there are a lot. And a lot of MOUs we sign at the departmental level, at the individual level, institutional level, to ensure that we foster that kind of collaboration. But we still have a long way to go. And that's what we need to. Funding is very important as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. Any more questions, comments before we call this an evening? Or is it afternoon still? All right, Bikila, you have oh, okay, good to show your face. Actually, you can all show your faces. Hi, Bikila. Bikila was one of our presenters last week, and thanks to have you as part of this panel again. So I think we will end it here, if I'm not closing anyone out, but thank you so very much for facilitating this talk from the previous tea time to this one. We've had a privilege to have all our 5 fellows be part of our tea time presentation. Thank you for your time here. We've had engagements here and there, and believe and hope that we can continue connecting, talking, collaborating in many areas, because as we said, we can still be global and international and local at the same time. It benefits us to be in all those spaces. And as I said, this recording is will be posted on our African Studies Center YouTube channel. Please feel free to share with your friends, colleagues, people that didn't make it here, because this is a very important discussion. I remember a few years ago, our graduate student, the African Graduate Students Association, was having a conference around how do we bridge the gap between research and practice. Usually we talk about research. What impact does it have? Typically, do we do research with an intention of it being useful in our local communities or global or in whichever space that is? So this is very important, and it's a resource actually I think that institutions can use, professors can use in their classrooms, just to get to know what progress is being made in our higher educational institutions in Africa, in terms of creating this or investing in research can really make a difference in society, because that's why universities exist. If we're not doing that, then perhaps we're not doing enough.
Yeah.
So I really thank you so much again, and look forward to, if not seeing you, continuing to collaborate. And thanks everyone for staying until the end and joining us. Bye.
Bye.